After building west through some of the most difficult mountainous terrain in the world, in 1885 the Canadian Pacific Railway arrived in Farwell, British Columbia, and in 1889 the town was renamed to Revelstoke after an investment banker from the United Kingdom bailed Canadian Pacific Railway and saved them from bankruptcy. This video is packed with information, including in-cab videos shot by a former railway employee. After leaving the station at Revelstoke, trains have to cross the Columbia River. The original Revelstoke railway station was much different than what stands today, and was a busy hub with passengers coming and going on passenger trains. The original bridge crossing the Columbia River was also made of wood, and as you can imagine, that did not hold up well to today's weight of trains, so that was replaced with the steel bridge that you see today. The original Big Eddy Bridge for vehicle traffic, built in 1910, is still operational today. The main highway did not come through Revelstoke until the late 1960s. I would like to thank my friend KC for donating these short video clips to me, filmed in the late 90s. Even though the most difficult part of the Canadian Pacific journey through the mountains was behind them, climbing up to Eagle Pass was no easy feat. Originally, it was a 1.7% grade. A new grade was added more recently to reduce the grade for westbound trains to a manageable 1%. Now, eastbound trains seen here take the original grade, and westbound trains take the newer grade. Before the new grade was added in the 1980s, pushers were added to trains in Revelstoke that were going westbound. Heading west, we arrive at Clanwilliam. Clanwilliam Lake, seen here, is a gorgeous location to film a train. There are 3 tunnels in this location. This area is known to crew to be quite dangerous due to rock and snow slides. Slide fences have been put up to give crew advanced warning if the tracks are blocked ahead of them. Until the 1970s, there was no highway through here, so this area was very remote. As trains roll further west, they passed Three Valley Lake. The Three Valley Lake Chateau, located in the distance, is a beautiful hotel. It includes a historic ghost town that's built on site and has been restored, as well as a roundhouse, old vehicles, and other historic items. Three Valley Gap, as it is known as now, also has some interesting railway history. In 1909, a large snowslide caused a train to derail and plummet into the lake. This train was said to carry whiskey, and that also ended at the bottom of the lake. Sadly, the crew perished, and nobody has ever recovered any of the train or the whiskey, as the lake bottom is nearly 1,000 feet down. Taft, BC, located at the highest point of elevation in Eagle Pass, was also the location of a pusher station. You can still see the remnants of the Y here. From Revelstoke to Taft is about 650 feet of elevation gain, and back in the days of steam, trains needed extra help to get up that grade. Taft had a railway station and was a town site for about 200 people. The remnants of that town site can still be found if you know where to look. There was a store, a library, a lumber mill, and even a small church. The town site was named after the manager of the Heed Lumber Company in that area by the Canadian Pacific Railway. Sadly, once the lumber mill closed in the mid-1940s, the people began to leave the town, and the town eventually disappeared. Just imagine what this would have sounded like in the days of steam. Building the railway in the late 1800s was no easy task, and there certainly was not enough workers to do the job. Bringing workers over from Europe as well as China was one way to solve that problem. Unfortunately, working conditions were terrible, and workers made between 75 cents and $1.25 a day. Chinese workers also did most of the most dangerous jobs, including working with explosives and blasting through tunnels. The Chinese workers were incredibly hard workers, and unfortunately many of them died doing their job. Also, finding enough wood to use for railway ties was becoming a big concern and a challenge. Eventually, crews had to lay ties further apart than they originally planned on doing so. Craigavon is a well-known location on the Canadian Pacific Rail Line. Construction of the Canadian Pacific Railway began from both the west and the east, and they met at Craigavon. On the morning of November 7, 1885, Director Donald Smith put the final spike in to combine the two lines together. Prior to 1885 and the railway being built, British Columbia was thought to be impossible to reach from the rest of Canada, and only agreed to become part of Canada if the railway was completed. Prior to the 1940s, there were no real roads through the mountains. Particularly in the wintertime, it was impassable. Until the 1960s, there were no highways either, so railway was the only way to get from one point to the other. Taking an airplane was really reserved for the wealthy during that time period. Fall, you can see salmon spawning in many of the rivers in British Columbia. If you look carefully, you can see them here. Heading further west, we pass through Sicamous and the beautiful Shuswap Lake. Located to the right of the tracks on the banks of the Shuswap Lake was a beautiful railway station with hotel. Built in 1900, it was literally cantilevered over the water and had stately room views of the lake. Unfortunately, the hotel was torn down in the mid-1960s. The only thing that remains is the foundation seen here. You can still see the Canadian Pacific Okanagan Subdivision railbed as it heads south to Armstrong. That line was discontinued and removed in 2014.
RMR 815 east, clear signal to west.
Here you can see the swing bridge that is operational during the summer months.
Takedown signal 444 decrease. Thank you guys, and you are stopped. Appreciate that, and we'll get your 2 signals behind. I thought we were done there, but we're not. Effort, we're on track. Out.
As trains approach Salmon Arm on the west side of the Shuswap Lake, trains go through this long and beautiful sweeping curve. This curve is said to be the largest continuous curve in Western Canada. As you can see, the Shuswap Lake can get high at times and threaten the stability of the rail line. This is a troublesome area for CPKC. Once again, as trains approach Tappen, they also begin to climb. This is also another location that they had a pusher station to get trains up over this grade. You can see where the Y used to be here. was named after a Canadian Pacific Railway construction worker, Herbert Tappen. A sawmill was built in this place in 1883, and Tappen first appeared on maps in 1891. In 1885, when trains came through this area, there was only one grade, and it was 1.7%. In 1980, they added a second grade that was much more manageable at 1%, seen here. As westbound trains climb this new grade, they approach what's known as Notch Hill. Back in the days of steam, Notch Hill, passing Carlin here, was a difficult climb for those trains. This area has a unique feature known as the Carlin Coal Sprayer. Coal trains, as they leave the mine in the mountains, are sprayed with a polymer-based liquid that coats the top of the coal to prevent it from blowing away in the wind during its travel. Carlin is at about the midpoint of its trip to the coast, and another layer of that polymer-based liquid is sprayed on at this location as well. Let's watch this process. Railway Traffic Control, known as RTC, is aware that this is a coal train and will activate the sprayer so that it is operational as this train only passes through it. A lunar signal just before the tunnel entrance will be lit up, indicating that it is ready to operate. Notch Hill is another location that there was a railway station for passengers to get on and get off. Contrary to popular belief, Notch Hill is not named after the trains being in Notch 8. It is actually named after the notch in the mountainside where trains went through originally on this grade. If you watch my videos on a regular basis, why don't you subscribe to my channel? And remember to leave a like, as that helps the YouTube algorithm recommend it to other viewers. And if you become a channel member for just the cost of a coffee a month, you get access to early videos and special perks. As trains head westbound and they continue their climb up Notch Hill, they approach this horseshoe curve. Gaining nearly 100 feet as they come around this horseshoe, trains are struggling. Trains are typically in Notch 8 or thereabouts, with power running full out, trying to make this grade. Trains stalling is not an uncommon thing in this location. During the early 1900s, Notch Hill was a thriving community. As trains reach the top of Notch Hill, they pass this historic church. The two grades once again meet and run parallel to each other for some time. Built in 1922, this church has seen some restoration work done to it, including new flooring, a new roof, and repairs to the bell tower. Restoration work has also started to take place on the schoolhouse and the community hall. Still see the remnants of the original Y here, where they took power off the trains that were put on at Tappen. The steam locomotives would be serviced in the engine house located here until 1928, when a severe storm destroyed the roof on the engine house. The engine house was removed after that. As trains head west, they now begin to descend into the valley. This location is the tipping point for this subdivision, where trains start to travel downhill towards Kamloops.
CP 9778 West, clear signal animated for squad exit.
After arriving at Geddes, westbound trains have passed through what is considered the mountain grades. Everything west of this location is just river grade at about 0.5%. When leaving Calgary, trains have extra power put on them to handle through the mountains. Now they will remove that extra power and leave it for eastbound trains to take back through the mountains. Trains such as this loaded potash train will remove the 2 units that are in the middle of the train. This process takes about 40 minutes to complete. As CN still accesses their Okanagan sub, they use the CPKC line between Kamloops and where their line comes off of it. Here we have a train moving westbound that has just come off of that subdivision. The 2 units leading this train have since been scrapped and are no longer in service. And finally, we have a train entering the East Kamloops yard. A complete trip from Revelstoke to Kamloops, and vice versa, will take approximately 8 hours if it's uneventful. It can be much longer if there are issues. After arriving in Kamloops, crew will disembark off of their train and swap with a new crew. Crew that don't live in Kamloops will stay in the bunkhouse overnight and then take a train back the other direction the next day. This is what it looks like in a room. Many things have changed since 1885, but what has not changed is the dedication of the railway to move goods and people across the country. It's hard to imagine what our lives would be like if it wasn't for the people who built this. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this episode. If you enjoyed it, maybe take a moment and donate even $5 using the thanks button below.